In this video, we take a deep dive into iOS 14, discussing over 250 new changes and features. So grab your favorite beverage, sit back, relax, and enjoy. But first, special thanks to our sponsor. How's it going, folks? Jeff Benjamin with 9 to 5 Mac. So we are back here with an iOS 14 walkthrough, and we go super in-depth with this walkthrough. So grab your popcorn, grab your drink of choice, sit back, relax, and take it all in because there's a lot to talk about with iOS 14. The first thing you're going to see is during the initial setup process, you're going to see some new glyphs, animated glyphs here, like the passcode right there. And it looks great. I have to say I'm a fan of these new animations during the setup process. Just looks more modern overall. Look at that one right there. But like I said, this is just the very beginning. This is just the very top of the iceberg of all the new stuff found in iOS 14. And like I said, this thing is loaded with new features, and we're going to walk through as many of them as we possibly can in this video. So if you appreciate videos like this, leave me a thumbs up, because what that does is it basically tells other people that, hey, this video is legit, you should watch it. And that's the reason why it's so important, a thumbs up. Okay, so the very first thing that I noticed is that you need to download the app data for all the applications upon a clean, fresh installation of iOS 14. So that's what I'm going to do now. Just go through and download all the app data for those applications, and just takes a few seconds to go through and do that. Now let's talk about the home screen, because tons of things have changed. Now you can slide through app pages by tapping and holding on the little dot indicator at the bottom. So you just tap, hold, and now you can slide your finger across to slide between app pages, just like this. And you already see those widgets there. We'll talk about that in just a second, but it makes it super easy to slide through those pages. The next thing is that you can enter edit mode from anywhere. So normally you would press and hold on an icon like that and continue holding, go into edit mode, or you can just press and hold and select edit home screen, or you can just press and hold and drag like that to enter edit mode. But now in iOS 14, you can actually tap and hold anywhere on the home screen to enter edit mode. Even over here where there's just a blank spot, press and hold and enter edit mode just like that. Now let's talk about the new minus indicator for deleting apps. When you go into edit mode, you'll notice the little minus sign instead of the X button that used to be there in iOS 13 and below. Now you can also edit home screen pages. So you know when you have a whole bunch of pages and icons spread all across multiple pages, it can be kind of hard to remember what's where. Well, in iOS 14, you can actually edit pages. So you go into edit mode, tap the dot indicator, and there you go. And this allows you to enable or disable pages right there on your home screen. So I can disable this one, this one, this one. So I have 2 pages enabled, and then I just tap done. And now look what we have here. And when you do that, new downloads will appear in the app library only, not on the home screen. I'll talk about the app library here in just a second. But now you can see only 2 page dots because we only have 2 pages enabled. That's really cool. So that's a great way to sort of curate what's on your home screen. Now, what if you just want 1 page? Is that possible? Well, yes, it is. All you need to do is go back into the page editor. We're going to uncheck this last one, tap done. And guess what? Now there's just 1 single page. Now we're going to go back into the page editor here, and we're going to enable the second page and disable the first. So you can even do that if you want to. So now just that 1 single page being the second page on our home screen. All right, so now let's go back into the page editor. We're going to re-enable all 5 pages, tap done, and there we go, back in action. All right, so let's talk about the 6 new iOS 14 wallpapers. So if you go to settings and then you go to wallpaper, you're going to notice those 6 new wallpapers there at the top. So you have 3 light wallpapers and 3 dark wallpapers. So here's the first one. Let's go into dark mode. There's what it looks like in dark mode. Sorry if you hear fireworks outside, people are going crazy. Sorry about my voice as well. I have a little cold I'm battling, but we're going to get through this here. So there's that wallpaper. Here's the other. Let's go in dark mode. Which one is your favorite? Let me know down below in the comment section. I think I like this one right here. It looks gorgeous, but I also like that first wallpaper. All right, so now let's talk about one of the best features of iOS 14 with regards to app management, and that is, of course, the app library. So this allows you to remove apps from the home screen without actually deleting those apps. So if you select Remove App, you're going to get some options here. You can either delete the app and that will delete it from your device altogether, or instead you can choose Add to Library, which will remove it from your home screen and place it in the app library. So that's what we're going to do with the Books app. So we're going to choose Add to Library. Notice it goes away from the home screen. So it is no longer anywhere on the home screen. I'm swiping through. No Books app. But watch when I search for books via search. You can see there, it does find the Books app. So Books is still on my device. It's just not present on the home screen. So where is Books? Well, now it is in the app library. So we're going to swipe all the way over to the very last page. There we go. You see the Books app down below. But what this does is it automatically categorizes every app on your device. So you see those various categories like suggested or recently added. You see social, entertainment, creativity, productivity. And all these apps are organized, like I said, automatically. So you don't do any sort of manual organization here. This is all handled by iOS. And the cool thing is that you can launch apps directly from the app library. So all you do is simply tap on the app that you wish to launch, like App Store, and it opens up. So you'll notice that apps with the large icons, like the App Store app, can be launched directly simply by tapping on it. But you'll notice smaller application icons, like the podcast app, if you tap that, that opens up the entire app library category for that particular category. So that allows you to see all the apps within that specific category. So the main thing to take away from this is all of your apps live here. They're automatically categorized. You don't have to do anything. So with that in mind, we have suggestions, and these applications in the suggestions box will update automatically based on machine learning and what iOS is recommending at the time. And likewise, recently added will have all of your newest installations right there at your fingertips. Now you can add apps from the app library to the home screen. All you do is long press and then select Add to Home Screen, and that will add that application to the home screen. It won't remove it from app library, but it allows you to easily access it on the home screen without having to go over to the app library. So pretty simple and straightforward there. But if you change your mind and you don't want that app on the home screen, all you need to do, long press and select Remove Application. And that will allow you to either delete the app outright from the device, getting rid of it altogether, or you can add it back to the library. So I'm just going to add it back to the library. That keeps the application but removes it from the home screen, and there we go. And one of the really cool things about the app library is it gives you a full list of all of your apps. All you need to do is simply swipe down or tap in the search box, and these are all the applications that are on your device. You can use the little A through Z slider to slide up and down just like that. So this is something that Android has had for a long time, and it's finally here on iOS, the ability to see all the apps in alphabetical order on your device. Such a handy feature to finally have. You can also search for applications. So just tap in the search box, type in your search term. So you can search for FaceTime or Photos, or even third-party applications. The cool thing though here is that if you type in the name of the developer, like Google, you'll find all the related apps corresponding to that developer. So that could be very handy if you use a lot of different apps from a certain developer, or if you know the developer name but don't actually remember the app name. Now let's talk about home screen settings and how that all works as far as downloading new applications and where they go and how that's determined. So here I have Chibi Studio here. I'm going to download that application. See, it's not yet on my home screen. I'm not sure if it's even going to appear there, but we'll figure that out here in just a second. So it doesn't look like it's going to appear there, but if we go back here, we can see it's ready to go. And nope, nowhere to be found on the home screen. But it's in the app library. You can guarantee that here in recently added, you can see Chibi Studio there. So the question is, why didn't it appear on the home screen? Well, initially when we first removed an application from the home screen and added it to the app library, a switch was flipped in the Settings app. So if we go to Settings and we go to Home Screen, which is a new section in iOS 14, you're going to see these options here. Add to Home Screen or Add to App Library only. So that's the option that we have enabled. So if I change that to Add to Home Screen, you will find new applications that you install on the home screen as well. There's also this option here to show badges for notifications in the app library. So first and foremost, let's head back over to the App Store. Let's download another application. Let's see what happens. See if it appears on the home screen now that we changed that option. And there you go. There is Fantastical here on the home screen. It will also appear in the app library, as you can see there. So you'll find it, of course, in the recently added category. So if we tap on the small icons, it opens up recently added. You can see Fantastical there, ready to go. It'll also be found in productivity, but notice you get the app icon badge here in the app library as well because we changed that setting. Okay, so let's talk about widgets. You have new redesigned glanceable widgets here in iOS 14. So if you swipe over to the widget center, you can see some of the widgets that are already there. So you can see one for the weather app, you see a battery widget, and there are tons of other widgets that you'll find here in iOS 14. It's super exciting. There's one for the news app, and these are all meant to be glanceable. They aren't meant to replicate app functionality, but it's here to provide glanceable info. Now you'll notice that the lock screen no longer has the time as default at the top, and you get a brand new widget gallery in iOS 14. So if you long press to enter wiggle mode or edit mode, you can tap the little plus button at the top of any of the pages to open up the widget gallery. So at the top, you'll find some of the suggested widgets. If you scroll down, you'll find categories for every widget available here. So you can see like weather, stocks, and you go into each different category and you'll find various sizes for your widgets. You can also search for your widgets as well. So podcasts. But that's just the start. There's a whole lot more to learn about widgets. The biggest news is that widgets aren't just for the widget center. You can now place widgets right on the home screen. Yes, indeed, right on the home screen. Let me show you how that works. So as you saw, I was able to open the widget gallery directly from the first home screen page. So I can tap, drag up any of the widgets, release, and notice how the app icons sort of dance out of the way and accommodate that widget based on its size. So you have that 2x2 widget there, and I can move that anywhere on the home screen page. I'm going to put it into edit mode, edit home screen, and simply drag it around. Notice how the app icons dance out of the way to accommodate the 2x2 news widget. And I can even move it over to other pages as well. So let's continue moving. We're going to drag this puppy all the way back over to the widget center. Just like that. And you can drag one of the other widgets over to the home screen. Like that. So the point is, widgets can go anywhere on any home screen page or within the widget center here in iOS 14. You can also remove a widget just simply by tapping the minus sign. And of course, you have different size widgets. So you have this 4x2 weather widget, move that right up to the top, app icons dance out of the way, and we're good to go. Now let's talk about editing a widget. So if you long press and select edit widget, you can edit that widget and its data and what it displays. So here I can go into the weather widget and change the location displayed. Just like that. So from Cupertino all the way over to the East Coast, New York. And I can do the same thing with reminders. So we're going to edit widget, and then I can choose a different list to display right there on the reminders widget. The Siri Suggestions widget is a handy tool for suggesting different actions based on context. So you can long press on there and suggest certain suggestions less, like that. And like I showed you a little bit earlier, there are different size widgets that you can choose from. So if we go into the widget gallery here, select one of the categories, you're going to find a 2x2, a 4x2, and a 4x4. So you can tap and drag the widget or simply tap add widget and it will place it right there on the screen. I'm going to remove that guy, go back to our widget gallery. Let's search for weather. And now I'm going to add this 4x4, just tap add widget. Notice all those app icons dance out of the way. Some of them go to the second page. But that's a nice, large, glanceable widget to give you relevant information about weather right there from the home screen. So I showed you how to use that add widget button, but let's show you the drag and drop again here. So let's go back to our widget gallery, tap, hold, drag, and release just like that. So what do you guys think about widgets in iOS 14? Let me know down below in the comment section. Interested to hear what you guys have to say about that. But not only are there different sizes for widgets, there are also different types of widgets within the same category. So for instance, news. You have a today 2x2, a today 4x2, today 4x4. But notice you also have topic 2x2, topic 4x2, topic 4x4. So that's cool. So you actually have 6 different widgets to choose from within news. So just good to know. Now let's talk about widget stacks. So I'm going to go into the widget gallery here. I already have a weather widget on the home screen. I'm going to drag reminders and I can just drop it there, or I can drop it on top of another like-sized widget. So a 4x2, I can drop another 4x2 on top. And you see the little dots there on the side indicating that's a stack. So let me get another one here. Let's find another 4x2. But just to illustrate, if you try to drop a widget that's a different size on top of another widget, it's not going to work. It's just going to slide it, dance out of the way. But if you drop another like-size widget on top, so there's batteries, there's a 4x2, see it? See how that little outline goes around it, indicating it can accept that widget, almost like dropping it in a folder. So now you have the little dots there on the side indicating you can swipe through. So that is a stack, and you can simply just, you see the little dots? You can simply just swipe down there. That's so cool to have multiple widgets without taking up any more real estate on your home screen. That is just awesome. So I just love the ability to swipe through those, get exactly what I'm looking for right there on the fly. Now, this doesn't just work with 4x2s. You can take a 2x2 here and add another 2x2 on top of it. So there's another stack. Let's add another. Add a battery widget. Oop, doesn't look like that one actually took. So let's try it again here. All right, so that one got accepted. So I'm gonna add one more. Let's use a Siri suggestion this time, and let's go over to a 2x2, drag and drop on that stack. Now, I think we're done. So we have 2 stacks on the home screen, one 4x2 stack and one 2x2 stack. Now let's go ahead and do the big daddy here, 2 4x4 stacks. Yeah, that's a lot of information at your fingertips. So now let's talk about editing a widget stack. So here's the 4x4 with multiple widgets inside. So if we long press, you're gonna see quite a few edit options here. You'll see edit weather pertaining to just this one widget. You'll see edit stack. You'll see edit home screen and other options there on this context menu. But we're gonna choose to edit weather. So that will just edit the one widget within that stack. So it doesn't pertain to any of the other widgets. You can edit whatever data points on that particular widget, just like that. Now you can also go in and edit the stack. And this allows you to change the order of the widgets and how they're displayed. So that's really cool. And there's also the smart rotation feature as well that you can toggle on or off. So that is editing a widget stack. Now you can also remove a widget from a stack without actually removing the entire stack. So just choose remove weather, for instance. It keeps the widget stack there, but the weather within that stack is gone. But you can also just outright remove the stack if you choose to do so. Just like that. In iOS 14, you can stack multiple widgets of the same type. So for instance, you can have 2 weather widgets and then just customize the weather to pertain to a different location. So here you have 2 weather widgets here on the home screen, but that doesn't make sense. Why have 2 taking up all that room when you can just have a stack with 2 weather widgets inside? And I can add even a third if I want to do that. So there are 3 weather widgets here within this stack. and I can swipe through them all just like that, and I can edit the data points to point to different locations for all 3 different weather widgets. That's really cool. Now there's also a smart stack within iOS 14, and this will automatically rotate widgets inside to show the most relevant information at the time. And of course you can manually rotate as well. So there's my smart stack on the home screen, and it will rotate to give me the most relevant information as needed. So in search, formerly Spotlight, you now have as you type search suggestions. So notice here I'm going to type in what the golf, and it automatically fills that in and auto completes it for me. And that's super handy. Search also includes a built-in quick launcher. So if I type in app, it auto completes the App Store. I just tap the go button and it auto launches the App Store for me. So I can do the same thing with the music. Tap the go button, it launches the music app. Now you can tell when the quick launcher is ready to launch an app because the app will be highlighted. Notice a little ring around the app, and now when you tap go, you know it's going to launch that app. And there's improved in-app search as well. So if I search for WWDC, it surfaces the note containing that text. I can even launch that directly from the go button at the bottom of the interface. So let's do it again here. So it surfaces the note containing that text, tap the go button, and it launches that exact note. Now there's also web search. I could actually navigate directly to a website, just type in 9to5mac.com, and then tap go to launch that launch that website directly, and it loads up 9to5Mac just like that. Now, I can also perform a traditional web search directly from the search bar, and notice the search suggestions that it's going to come up with. So I'm going to type boot camp or just boot, and notice it automatically populates suggestions for me. I just tap one of those suggestions and the search results load up just like that. So nice to have. And there's also updated Siri suggestions UI. So you have the new disclosure triangle. You also have larger heading text for Siri suggestions. So just an overall better looking UI. You also have redesigned Siri knowledge. So this layout for Siri knowledge is going to be updated. You get that similar heading with the larger text, heavier font weight, just a better looking layout overall for Siri suggestions. Now this is one of the coolest new features in iOS 14. Picture-in-Picture is finally available on the iPhone after being on the iPad for quite a while. Now we have it on the iPhone. All you do is simply swipe up like that while enjoying a full screen video to invoke picture-in-picture mode. That's so nice to have. And you can also, while in full screen view, just simply swipe over to another app to invoke picture-in-picture as well. And of course, you can just tap the little picture-in-picture button on the video itself to invoke it that way. So you can navigate around iOS and still enjoy your video, thanks to picture-in-picture. Now you can also control and swipe your video to one of the 4 corners on your iPhone. And you can also pinch in to make it smaller or pinch out to make it larger. So you make it really tiny like that. You can simply just swipe it out of the way. But the really great thing about picture-in-picture is just being able to navigate around iOS, use other applications, still watch your video, and if you need to move it out of the way, you can simply swipe it off screen like that and still listen to the audio playback. So the video is actually still playing back. You're navigating around. Once you're ready to bring the video back, just swipe it back over like that, and you can view it and resize or whatever the case may be. You can take advantage of the 15-second skip forward, 15-second skip backwards. And of course, you have the picture-in-picture button there in the upper right-hand corner. And that allows you to pop it back into the main window. And of course, you can hit that picture-in-picture button again to pop it back out if you choose to do so. Now let's talk about the PIP settings. So if you go to Settings General, you'll see a new picture-in-picture section. And this allows you to adjust the Start Automatically toggle. So if you turn that off, then picture-in-picture will not automatically invoke whenever swiping up to close or swiping over to switch between apps while watching a full screen video. So then you'll have to use the actual button for picture-in-picture in order to invoke it. Now in iOS 14, there is a new compact Siri UI. So this is how Siri used to look on the left side here running iOS 13. Full screen view, took up the entire screen. You lost context as to what's going on. But now, here in iOS 14, notice the Siri button, and you get the results at the top of the display, yet you can still see the app underneath. So it's not nearly as jarring as the Siri of old. Now Siri can also send audio messages, so I'm dictating an audio message here. And there you go. So there's that audio message. So I just said, hey, you know who, send an audio message to the recipient, and it sends just like that. Now, when you're using navigation, you can also use Siri to send an ETA to a recipient. So I can just say, hey, share my ETA with so-and-so, and it uses the current navigation to send that ETA. You also find updated Siri settings. So if you go to settings and then Siri and search, on iOS 13, you see suggestions on the lock screen, but that setting's actually been relocated in iOS 14. That now appears under notifications for Siri suggestions. You also find updated settings for Siri feedback, and this replaces the old voice feedback section in iOS 13. So if we compare the two, you'll notice some differences inside the panel. So the first three settings are basically the same, although the text used to describe each setting is different. So you have always on versus always, control with ring switch, whereas here you have with silent mode off or with hey you know who, then Siri will respond with voice feedback. Otherwise, if you have mute on, it will not respond. It will just respond with text. And you're going to see these new sections here always show Siri captions. So this will output the results in text on the screen. And then you have always show speech. So this will output your text that you're requesting from Siri. So let's test it out. I turned the ringer off and we're going to ask Siri a question. So there's no sound, no voice feedback, but you can see my question there and the result in text. At the top of the share sheet in iOS 13, you'll see various sharing contact suggestions. And that can be handy, but at the same time, it can also be annoying depending on your needs. Well, in iOS 14, you may be happy to know that you can turn off suggestions when sharing now. And I've wanted this feature for a very long time. So you just tap that button here, and now when we share, notice no suggestions at the top. Super handy feature for me at least. And in iOS 14, you'll find more granular individual app search suggestion options here. So previously you had show and search and you had suggest shortcuts, but now you have show and suggest app, show apps content, and suggest shortcuts for the app. So just a more granular set of options here within the Siri and search suggestions for individual applications installed on your iPhone. And no surprise, app clips are a new part of iOS 14, making easily discoverable, quickly downloadable parts of applications. Now you also have the ability to customize Siri and search for app clips in iOS 14. Now let's talk about privacy. So in iOS 14, privacy is a big deal. Actually, it's a huge deal. And one of the new options is the ability to allow applications to request to track your activity, which can be useful for some particular applications for tracking your activity across different websites and applications. But developers are now required to get your consent prior to tracking you. And this is super cool. Now you can give apps access to your approximate location instead of an exact location. So for apps like a weather app, for instance, that doesn't necessarily need your exact location, now you can just say, hey, just use my approximate so you don't know exactly where I am. So this is such a handy feature for using with lots of different apps that don't need your precise location. Obviously, apps like navigation or the Find My app is going to need your precise location, but for other applications, there's no need for them to know exactly where you are. This is so nice to have. And this new feature is awesome as well. Limited photo library access in iOS 14. So instead of giving an application access, unadulterated access to your entire photo library, no, you can say, hey, you can only have access to these photos. So here you'll see a little pop-up prompt. You can allow access to all just like normal, or you can select photos. So if I tap select, that allows me to go in and selectively give access to only certain photos within my library. So I can say, hey, you can have access to those, and I can go in and search. I can view my selected and say, hey, that's all you get. Or I can add a few more. I can go to albums. This is the new photo picker, by the way. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So I can say, hey, I'm going to give you access to a few more of these. Go to tap and drag. and I can view all my selected photos that I'm giving access to. So you can see why this is such a handy feature, because a lot of these applications don't really need access to all the photos in your library. In fact, it's kind of scary to think that some of these apps have access to all your photos. It just doesn't make sense. So if you ever want to add additional photos that you're granting access to, you simply go into settings, and from there just simply tap the edit selected photos button, and which is right here. So I'm just going to tap that. That's going to bring up the photo picker again. It's going to show your existing selections, and then you can just simply add or remove the photos that you're granting access to. So like I said, just such a nice, handy feature, such an obvious feature to finally have in iOS. This is one of the key privacy enhancements that you'll find in the latest version of iOS 14. So what do you guys think? Let me know down below in the comment section. Are you going to be taking advantage of selected photos? Let me know. Now, there's also a recording/microphone indicator in the upper right hand corner, right in the status bar. It's just a little dot. It's very subtle, but it just helps you to see that something is actively using either the camera or the microphone. So that's a really handy feature to have. So the same thing goes for the camera. See a little dot in the upper right hand corner? So that just tells you that something's using your camera. You should know that that's happening. And then there's also a recently used indicator in the control center. So that shows that voice memos was recently accessing the microphone or currently accessing the microphone. It'll also show recent access to the microphone. And the same thing goes for a camera, it goes for Siri, etc. So here's camera, recording right here. I'm gonna stop. And then if I swipe down, you see it recently used the camera. And like I said, same thing goes for Siri. So just a huge privacy enhancement overall, just kind of helping the user to know what's going on with their phone. Now, there's also notification when apps access the clipboard. Now, there's updated APIs that developers can take advantage of in iOS 14 that will make this a lot better and a little less intrusive. But for now, you're at least able to see what applications are actually accessing clipboard data. Now, to be fair, a lot of these apps like deliveries are legitimately searching clipboard data for useful things like tracking codes. You also notice new privacy settings for local networks. So if you go in here to settings, privacy, you're going to see local network there. And this is for apps requesting permission to find and communicate with local network devices. And in iOS 14, you can create a private MAC address for your Wi-Fi adapter simply by enabling the Use Private Address button, and that will create a second MAC address to keep network operators from tracking your phone. So as you can see, just a ridiculous amount of privacy enhancements in iOS 14. What do you think about all these? Let me know down below in the comment section. Markup in iOS 14 gets a significant improvement and enhancement. First of all, there's the new colors button. So you can compare the two. Huge difference between these two. We're going to break down each of the new features here within the color section of markup. So there's a new eyedropper tool, which is to me the most important thing about this new update. That allows you to easily and quickly select any color found on the contents on screen. So you just simply drag your finger and it will get that color and pull that out for you. And then you can quickly switch to one of your markup tools and use that color that you took from the eyedropper tool on screen. So the eyedropper alone makes the markup utility so much more useful in iOS. I can't tell you how much of a difference that makes. Now you'll find 3 tabs within the iOS 14 markup color picker. So you have the grid, you have spectrum, and you have sliders. So the grid is the default, and then you have spectrum, so you can just slide your finger there to get the color spectrum you're looking for. And then you have sliders, so you can slide and create your custom colors there. Now you also have an updated opacity tool, and you can go in and actually set a direct percentage value. And you have hexadecimal color values that you can set in here for display P3 or sRGB. So that's super handy to get the exact color value you're looking for. And here's another really cool thing, especially when combined with the new eyedropper tool, the ability to save favorite colors within the markup tool to use across other applications. So I saved that blue color. Let's go ahead and create another. So there we go. Let's save that one. So we close out of the markup tool, we go to the Notes app, for instance, and there I can access those favorite colors just like that and start drawing with that color that I pulled out of that image right in another application. And there's also shape recognition. You can recognize tons of different shapes here within markup on iOS 14. So all you do is draw and hold, and it will auto create that shape for you. So let's do a heart. There we go. Now let's talk about settings. So you can long press the back button to go back multiple levels. Let me show you what I mean here. So I'm gonna dive deep inside the settings app here, down into the keyboard section. All right, so we're pretty deep inside settings. Now if I tap and hold on the back button, notice what I get here. Shortcuts to go back multiple levels all the way to the root settings. So I can go back multiple levels with just a tap. And in iOS 14, you can tell if your phone is carrier locked. Now you just go into Settings, General, About, and it'll tell you. So in iOS 14, you have the ability to customize automatic updates to not only install iOS updates, but to download those iOS updates as well automatically. And you'll find new cellular streaming settings in the TV app section of settings. So now you'll see where it says use cellular data. So we'll go ahead and turn that on. And now you see high quality along with a new automatic setting that will optimize streaming based on your data plan. Whereas iOS 13 had Data Saver, which would stream up to 600 megabytes an hour. And in iOS 14 under Settings, iCloud, iTunes and App Store is now called Media and Purchases. So this is Apple continuing to move on from iTunes of old. Here's a really cool new feature. You can now rename Bluetooth devices in iOS 14. So for instance, my controller here, I can give that controller a custom name. So I'm going to do that right now. Just type in Jeff's controller. So there you go. Now I have a custom name for my Bluetooth controller, courtesy of iOS 14. And now there's a search bar in the iPhone storage section of settings. So that's really neat. So you just tap the search button here, and now you can search for applications, and that's going to make it easy to quickly identify an app and then go in and manage that application, delete it, whatever the case may be. And there's a new glyph when Bluetooth devices are connected, similar to when you connect an Apple Pencil to an iPad. You get Jeff's AirPods Pro connected, and you'll notice that AirPods now have their info in the iOS Bluetooth settings. So you have things like model name, model number, serial number, version. You don't have any of that on iOS 13. And yes, indeed, guess what, folks? The Field Test app has been updated in iOS 14. Of course, this is a hidden application for diagnostics and things of that nature. That has been updated for iOS 14. You can compare it to the iOS 13 version on the left, iOS 14 version on the right. And in iOS 14, family sharing shows avatars of all members at the top here. So you get nice little photos of all the members in your family share in iOS 14. There's also a new layout for individual members, so that will show things like join date and role. And you'll see a new shared with your family heading instead of just the generic shared features. And in iOS 14, you can invite members using the share sheet, so all the different sharing options you get in there, you can use that instead of the typical iMessage text that you would normally send to invite a shared member. You'll notice that Apple TV channels are broken up individually in the main list, and there's a new Ask to Buy button at the bottom of the family sharing interface. There's also a new Screen Time UI, which actually shows a picture of what screen time looks like. There's a new heading as well. Just looks a lot better here in iOS 14. Now let's talk about the keyboard. First and foremost, there is a new, finally, emoji search within iOS 14. This is such a needed feature. We finally have it. So now we can search for our favorite emoji using text, and that will surface all the relevant emoji based on that text string that you're searching for. Such a nice new feature. I'm going to use this all the time. In other words, no more wasting time swiping through page after page of emoji looking for that exact one. Now you just simply type in what you're looking for, and it helps you find it just like that. Probably one of my favorite new features in iOS 14. What do you guys think? Now let's talk about the updated Control Center. So you have an updated camera app glyph for the Control Center toggle shortcut, and you'll notice that the Home app CC toggle has been removed. So if you scroll down here, you won't see Home at all, in iOS 14. However, you will see it in iOS 13. But of course, there is a valid reason for that, and that is because there are now dynamic home toggles added, and you can add those directly from the Control Center settings. So notice here, when I turn that on, Show Home Controls, it's going to surface relevant HomeKit controls right there within Control Center, so I can do handy things like unlock my back door directly from Control Center. There's also a new sound recognition toggle. This is super cool. Let me show you how this works. So there it is. So when you tap on it, you can configure various sounds to recognize. So for instance, you can make it recognize a smoke alarm or a door knock. I'm actually going to simulate a door knock here in just a second, but let's go into the settings. That's going to open up the accessibility sound recognition settings. So this is a new accessibility option that's linked directly in Control Center. And watch, when I knock, it's going to surface a notification there saying that it heard a knocking sound. So you can imagine how handy this would be for someone hearing impaired. And speaking of hearing, the hearing toggle within Control Center has been updated to show a decibel meter, so you can quickly gauge how loud your current environment is when you have a pair of AirPods connected. And this will in real time show you the decibel meter, which measures the sound in your environment. And then there's updated Control Center settings. So in iOS 14, the toggles are immediately exposed so you can get to customizing them. Whereas in iOS 13, those controls were hidden behind a customized controls panel. So there are lots of accessibility changes here in iOS 14. So let's go ahead and start off with headphone accommodations under audio visual. So what this allows you to do is to customize the sound for supported headphones like Beats headphones and AirPods, of course. You can tune your audio for a balanced tone, vocal range, or brightness, and then you can boost soft sounds as well. And you can apply this for phone calls or for media or for both. And you can go in and customize your audio setup to really fine tune the sound coming out of your AirPods. So I look at this as sort of like synonymous with tuning a guitar, except you're digitally tuning your AirPods. Yeah, that's probably a terrible analogy, but the point is it allows you to customize the sound for your headphones. And you'll notice some subtle changes with the root settings. For instance, VoiceOver has a little subtle change. You have the magnifier icon, which is black now. You have sound recognition in there now. So let's talk about VoiceOver. You can see the comparison between VoiceOver on iOS 14 versus iOS 13. So a whole big text description is now gone. And then when we go into VoiceOver settings here, you're going to notice some additional new features like VoiceOver recognition. So you're going to find things like image descriptions. So you can go in there and toggle that on or off. You have screen recognition, and you have text recognition. So all these different accessibility options are just great. It's one of the things that makes the iPhone so wonderful for those with disabilities. And you'll notice tons of other changes when compared to iOS 13. For instance, under verbosity, you'll see speak detected text and images on iOS 13, but it's just called actions on iOS 14. In the magnifier, not only does it have an updated icon, which is black, now the magnifier just has a single toggle inside it, whereas in iOS 13, there was the auto adjust exposure option in there as well. And we'll talk more about magnifier a little bit later. Lots of changes there. And then there's spoken content. So you can go in and you'll see Siri is the default in iOS 14, whereas Samantha was the default for English in iOS 13. And here's something extremely cool. Under touch, you're going to see a new back tap option. So you have a double tap on the back and a triple tap on the back. Literally tapping on the back of your phone, you can perform any sort of action listed here, including shortcuts. So this is super powerful. Let me just show you how this works. I'm going to assign a double tap to the app switcher. Double tap on the back of the phone. 1, 2, it opens up the app switcher just like that. It's really cool. And then you have a triple tap. So I'm going to set that. And here's what's really interesting about setting up these shortcuts. I have Spotlight configured, which is search. But watch this. Now I can be within an app, triple tap. It invokes Spotlight even though I'm not on the home screen. So that's powerful in and of itself. And then there's switch control updates. So if we go in there, you're going to be able to add a back tap to switch control as well. Super handy. And if we scroll down a little bit, under speech, you'll see some options here like speak item attributes and pause while speaking. You can adjust those settings accordingly. And you'll see side button confirmation confirm with switch control. Toggle that on or off. So just so many options for accessibility. There's also a side button section where you can enable confirm with switch control or enable confirm with assisted touch. So this allows those with physical difficulties to operate their iPhone with one or more switches. Now you also have audio video options under accessibility. We already kind of explored this earlier with headphone accommodations. And then there's also Siri, and you'll see similar updates under accessibility that we saw with the main Siri settings. So functionality is more or less the same, but the labels have been updated here in iOS 14. And one really interesting function is the show apps behind Siri. Now, by default, that's enabled, and that's what gives you that compact Siri interface when invoking Siri in iOS 14. So if we turn that off, basically you're going to go back to the full screen Siri experience. So let me go ahead and invoke. And you can see full screen Siri, not really full screen, but basically hiding the app behind it. And if I turn that back on, the app still shows underneath the Siri interface. So I definitely prefer to keep that on. And then under accessibility shortcut, which is the triple press of the side button, you're going to find some updates here. So classic invert colors is now just called classic invert. And you'll also find a new increased contrast shortcut option. So you can check that right there. You'll also find reduced transparency, and you'll notice that Smart Invert Colors is now just called Smart Invert. So let's talk about the phone app. The biggest change is the new compact interface that allows you to see incoming calls without taking focus away from your current operation, which is so needed here in iOS 14. So you can answer that call directly from that interface, go about your business, it'll go away, but you can still see the call there in the upper left-hand corner. You just tap that to bring back the full screen interface. So let's test it out again. So if I just want to dismiss that incoming call, I can just swipe up like that, and you can see it hidden away here in the upper left-hand corner, still ringing, but silent. So I can always tap that to bring it back and answer the call if I want to answer it or hang up or whatever the case may be. Now I can also swipe down on the compact interface to bring up the full screen interface if I want to do that, or I can simply tap it. Now, third-party VoIP calls also use the compact interface. For instance, here's Skype, and the same principles apply here as they did with the phone compact interface. So I can tap it, expand it out, I can dismiss it, etc. There's a new audio picker. So instead of having that sheet that comes from the bottom of the screen, you get this little pop-up picker. A lot more attractive in my opinion. What do you guys think? And then there are updated tables and buttons in the Contacts app, or the Contacts section of the phone app, and a new contact photo option. So if you go to edit, actually lots of options, I should say. So if you edit your contact photo, you can do all sorts of new things. You can add an emoji, of course, and that's not new. But now you can add emoji. So you can add tons of emoji. We'll talk about that here in just a second. Of course, you can customize with the photo. You can launch the photo picker, choose your photo if you wish to do that. Or you can tap the emoji button and choose an emoji. You can use the emoji keyboard search as well. And you can customize the background. That's really cool. So tons of options, obviously, with the emoji. And you can also go in and create a custom text label. So I can just say, yo. And of course, you also have Animoji/Memoji stickers. So in iOS 14, you get access to all your stickers as well as the typical Animoji or the typical Memoji. You'll find an updated group interface in the contacts section. So that's nice, just a redesign there. New disclosure triangle. And you'll find updated settings in phone incoming calls. Obviously, because you have the new banner interface. But you can set it to banner, which is the default setting. If you turn it on full screen, then incoming calls are going to take up the full screen, just like that. So, of course, no one wants that anymore. So I'm going to definitely change that back. You can guarantee that. And then you also notice rearranged settings. So announce calls is rearranged. Then you have the silence unknown callers and the call reporting and all that's rearranged here in iOS 14 when you compare to iOS 13. So all the sort of spam blocking stuff is grouped together for easy access in iOS 14. So phone app got a huge update, but now let's talk about the Messages app because it too got a pretty big update in iOS 14. So now you have pinned conversations, so you can pin a conversation just by swiping like that. In a pinned conversation, just as it states, pins that conversation at the top. So it's the first thing you see. You even see little message indicators or new text that come in. You will see those appear right on top of the pin. And you can tap and drag to pin or unpin as well. Just like that. Pretty cool. So you also have a now typing indicator in the conversation list. And that's handy. So you can see when someone is typing. That also works on your pins as well. And there's also a new mentions feature when you hide alerts. So when you hide alerts and you go to settings here and you turn on notify me under the mentions heading, anytime your name is mentioned, you're still going to get a notification even though you have hide alerts enabled. So that's handy. There's also inline replies now. So sort of like WhatsApp, you can tap and then select reply and you can reply inline so you can have that context for your conversation. So there you go. And you can see the little thread linking those two conversations or those two text bubbles together, which is really nice for gaining context. Now, what if you reply to something that happened way earlier? How does it handle that? Well, let me show you right now. So you see the smaller bubble with the more faint outline that helps you to see that this was a reply to something you talked about earlier. So you can tap that to really gain the context back and see exactly where that conversation started. So it's just a super handy way to maintain continuity within conversations. And there's a new contact photo layout for group conversations here, so it's a little bit different than what you used to see on iOS 13. You see that up top right there. All right, but you also have the ability to set a group photo and name. So there's the group detail information. Then you can set a photo or an icon and a name. So we're going to give it a name. Let's call it Pizza Pals. And of course, pizza would be a great icon, wouldn't it? So let's just tap on that and assign it to the group. And there we go. I think that looks good. So just going to tap the done button. And now we have our infamous Pizza Pals group conversation. Now there's a new edit button that replaces the action button. And this allows you to select messages, edit photos, etc. You also see new glyphs for hide alerts and delete. And there's an updated detail view with names, buttons, photos, and link history. And an updated audio call UI right there at the top. And you can move between 3D effects by sliding your finger just like you could move between pages on the home screen. Pretty simple there. And the shooting star effect, I couldn't find it anymore here on iOS 14. Here's iOS 13. We're just going to swipe through all these full screen effects in the Messages app. And then notice here when I swipe over here, I get the shooting star. But that shooting star is no longer on iOS 14. Let me know if you know why that is. Did they just remove it? Maybe I'm just missing something. Now there's new Memoji and Memoji sticker icons. And it seems like Memoji sort of replaced the term Animoji in iOS 14. There's new hairstyles as well for Memoji. So we'll just find one in particular. You can see that one right there is a new one. And there's others. You can scroll around and find those. There's new headwear styles as well. So there in the upper right hand corner, you see that new hat. And there's also goggles as well. And sign of the times, we have face coverings in the era of coronavirus. So you can just tap that here. You can customize your face covering color, which is really cool. Looks pretty neat. And then you also have more age options. So in iOS 13, you only had 3 age options, basically baby, regular, and old. But now you have like 9 different age options, so you can age gracefully with your Memoji. And you'll find new Memoji stickers. I think I was able to find at least 4 new ones. So the little party sticker here has been updated. And then you find 3 additional ones here. So you have one with the hands out, the fist bump, and the shocked Memoji sticker. All right, so the Maps app gets updated route UI buttons. So you see the little square buttons that are no longer at the bottom of the interface here, but in iOS 14, you get the nice little square route buttons. And when you get details, you can see those buttons appear at the top of the interface on iOS 14. Another key new addition is the presence of cycling as a transportation option in iOS 14. So you just tap that in a valid area like San Francisco, and it will give you directions for cycling. And this gives you details on elevation, whether or not stairs are required, and you can avoid things like stairs, hills, or busy roads if you choose to do so. So this will be in just a few cities initially, and then eventually roll out to more cities as time goes on. So of course, in this example, you're in San Francisco, so no surprise there, you see that huge spike in elevation. So that gives you an idea of how your ride's going to go just at a glance. And then you have all these detailed instructions below, and there are lots of them. And then Apple has partnered with various publications like Lonely Planet to produce guides for specific cities. So if you want to go in and find various attractions based on certain interest, then you can use these guides, and they will actually map out and put pins right on the map that shows you where these locations are. And then you can read more about those locations, get photos, get directions, etc. And no surprise, the Maps app settings have been updated with preferred types of travel to include cycling, and then the default cycling accommodations to do things like avoid hills and stairs and busy roads. And then you'll find a new navigation and guidance section within the Maps app settings, and that features other default settings for navigation. And there are other things you can expect from the Maps app like EV charging support, speed trap support, congestion details, and others. Now there is one new default app in iOS 14, and that is the Translate app. This is an application that allows you to communicate in different languages with ease. So it features built-in voice translation. You select your languages, you start speaking, and then it translates that word or phrase accordingly. And then there's conversation mode and landscape.
Siete.
It'll auto-recognize
7.
the language you're speaking.
Siete.
And if you're trying to get someone's attention, say you're in a foreign country, you can use attention mode to really draw that person to see that, hey, I need some help, or I'm trying to communicate with you. Can you help me out? So that's pretty cool. And not only is there voice translation, but there's also text translation built right in. So I'm just going to type a couple of words here. And there we go, translate it from English into Spanish just like that. And you can even set up favorites. So once you have a favorite translation, you can always reference that at a later time. And there's on-device translation settings. So you can see all these languages here, but if you scroll down, you're going to notice that you can actually download entire languages for access offline. So you can see Arabic, Chinese, English, French, German, Italian, Japanese, Korean, Portuguese, Russian, Spanish. You can just download those. Once they're downloaded, you can put your device in airplane mode, or if you don't have cellular connectivity, don't worry about it. You can still take advantage of the translation offline, which is super handy. And I also like the fact that it tries to gain context as to what you're really referring to. So in this case, water, I'm referring to drinking water, of course. And when I translate to Chinese, it translates into the proper word, shui. I guess I pronounced that right. My Chinese followers, please let me know. My Chinese is terrible, but I'm trying. There's also built-in dictionary, so if you tap on one of the translations, it will actually give you more details as to what that word actually means. So again, helping you gain context and really helping you understand what the translation is actually saying, so you make sure you say it right. And then there's the keyboard that automatically is added when typing in a foreign language. So you don't have to download the keyboard beforehand. No, it's automatically added. So the Home app has been updated for iOS 14. As you can see there, how it compares to iOS 13. You see the little plus button on iOS 13, a little bit different there. You see the home button on iOS 14, a little bit different there. When you tap plus, you get the new interface for add accessory. I'm going to do that here. And you can see it's a pretty big difference between the two add accessory panels there. And then when you go to home, you can see you can easily switch to any of your rooms directly from the home button. So that doesn't just open up settings now, but no, it allows you to quickly navigate to any of the other rooms. And of course, you can still swipe between rooms as well, just like that. And then there's suggested automation. So when you add a new device, it's going to actually suggest these automations during the setup process. You can turn those on or off. And as we showed you a little bit earlier, their home app controls right within the control center. So there's no longer just that single home app button, but now you have individual controls that you can toggle directly from Control Center. And there's adaptive lighting for smart bulbs. Now, I was not able to test this out because I don't think I have the updated firmware that would be necessary for adaptive lighting to work. But the principle is that it will adapt the color temperature over the time of day, over a time range. So for instance, cooler in the mornings, warmer in the evenings, you can already set up the temperature, but eventually you're going to be able to have that adaptive setup that's automated. And now there's face recognition for video cameras and doorbells. I have the Eufy security camera, the Eufy 2C, that is HomeKit secure video compatible. Excellent camera. I will be reviewing that. If you want to see that, thumbs up, let me know down below in the comments. But let me show you what this looks like here in the iOS 14 Home app. So you see a face recognition setting, and then you can actually add faces and say, hey, alert me when this face appears. So you'll get a notification that doesn't just say, hey, a person's at the door. No, it'll say Jeff's at the door, or Mark's at the door, or Bob's at the door. How cool is that? And there's also activity zones for video cameras and doorbells. So this is awesome because it allows you to really fine tune those cameras. And a lot of other third-party cameras have this, but now HomeKit secure video compatible cameras, you can set up activity zones. You can invert those activity zones here, and you can have multiple zones within a single scene like that. And you can make them fairly complex, as you can see there. And I have 3 zones here, and I can invert just like that, or revert. Now, if you want to delete one of those zones, all you need to do is simply tap on them. So we'll do that now. And then we'll just clear that zone. We'll clear that one. And let's set up something a little bit more complex. So you can have a lot of different points to really kind of fine tune. If you tap a point, you can back up to make a correction. But man, you can get some super detailed activity zones there. So you're not picking up false positives from traffic and whatnot. No, you're really homing in on a specific area within the scene. And you have updated recording option text. So now instead of just having all your recording options right there front and center, they're hidden away in a section in iOS 14. So you tap that and then you basically get the same thing. So now let's talk about Safari settings. So you get web page translation, something that I've been wanting for years in Safari. Now you have it. So when you go to a website in an eligible foreign language, you'll see the translate button automatically appear in the toolbar, and then you can tap that to translate to English. Now, it also pops right up immediately. If you tap that, then you can enable a translation immediately. And then you see the little button turns black, indicating that the translation has taken place. And then, of course, you can always revert back to the original language if you wish to do so. So let me show you how to do that. So you just tap that button there, and then you tap where it says View Original, and it goes back to the original language. Super simple, super easy. What do you guys think about that? Do you think it's handy? And you'll also find a new website privacy report here. If you just tap tracking report under the toolbar, you'll see tracking data. You'll see the block trackers, where they originated from, the web pages that were affected, and other handy details to help protect your privacy. And Safari in iOS 14 has a up to 2 times faster JavaScript engine, so it's going to render pages even faster than before. And in iOS 14, there is now a dedicated password section in settings separate from the mail settings, and there's password monitoring along with security recommendations based on the monitoring details that it finds. Now let's talk about the App Store, because there are some noteworthy changes there. You get app details in this little slider. So those details tell you things like the developer, the size of the app, whether or not a controller is compatible, etc. So that's very handy to have. You can also tap on the developer and find other apps from the same developer. Super handy, super simple. And there's also App Store search typo suggestions. So if I type in the wrong name, it's going to give me the right results most of the time, but also allow me to link to what I originally typed. There's also shared in-app purchases for third-party apps. So of course, developers will have to opt in on that. But previously, if you looked at family sharing at the bottom of an application, it says in-app purchase can't be shared with family members. But now you'll see where it says in-app purchases may be shared with family members. It's going to be up to the developer, but I think a lot of developers will be hopping on this train. And there's also updated App Store settings. So the thing that stands out, obviously, is the fact that the Apple ID is removed from the top, and automatic downloads are now simplified to focus just solely on apps. So you're not going to find anything about books or music in there. It's just about apps and app updates. Now, I don't have any examples of app clips working just yet in iOS 14, but you will find a settings panel for app clips in the Settings app. And Apple Arcade got quite a few updates here in iOS 14, including continue playing. So right within the arcade section of the App Store, you can pick up right where you left off. The games that you already have in progress will be shown there, and you can easily tap them to resume. You'll also be able to browse all games and filter all games by things like release date, by controller support, category, updates, and more. You also find friend suggestions right there within the Arcade tab of the App Store. So you can invite a friend just by simply tapping the invite button, and that will open up a new message to send the invite directly to that person. You'll also find achievements right within the Apple Arcade tab of the App Store for the particular games that you're playing. So if you tap on that, you get to see the whole list of achievements, any achievements you've already acquired. So that gives you something to work towards. And then Game Center also has an in-game dashboard. So you go in there, you can open that up, see all your achievements right there in game. And not just achievements, but you'll also see other things like leaderboards. So there you go, tap on leaderboards. You can see who's doing what, how's everybody doing, how you compare. And then you can tap your username to break down your overall gaming status. All right, so let's talk about the camera. So you're going to notice updated quick action shortcut glyphs for the camera. There's also improved shot-to-shot performance. You can enable that via settings, but notice on the right side, you get way better performance when rapidly taking photos when compared to iOS 13. And then Quick Take Photo, which allows you to take a video from the Photos section of the camera app, arrives on the iPhone XS and XR. And you can quick toggle video mode on all iOS 14 devices. There's a new chevron indicator for settings in the camera app. There's also an updated night mode capture experience. So in night mode, you'll notice the little button there in the bottom left-hand corner is going to be lit up yellow. So that is new compared to iOS 13. And you'll also notice a new guide that helps you line up your night mode photos. And that's going to help you keep the camera steady, which is going to result in better shots overall with night mode. Now there's also a new exposure compensation control option in the camera app on iOS 14. So you'll find it down below in the settings, and there you can use the slider to compensate the exposure. And you'll also notice in the upper left-hand corner, you'll get that same meter, which helps to indicate that exposure compensation is in use. And what's cool is that this is actually a live indicator, so you'll see that actually update as you adjust it. And if you tap it, it'll toggle the exposure compensation settings. Now here's another new feature in iOS 14. You can capture burst photos using the volume up button. So all you do is you press and hold the volume up button while in the camera app, and it takes a burst photo like that. Now if you press and hold the bottom button, it will invoke Quick Take like that, and if you just press it, it takes a normal photo. Now, you can also mirror photos taken with the front-facing camera in iOS 14. Now, notice my hand there. Notice where my thumb is. All right, so see how it's reversed? But watch here, in the Settings app, you can mirror the front camera. So I'm going to turn that on. I'm going to take the same photo. All right, so I get a mirror image of that photo. You can compare it. Pretty cool. New QR code reading enhancements makes it easier to scan smaller QR codes or QR codes wrapped around an object. And you'll find updated camera settings, for example, exposure compensation control and preserve settings. There's also simplified composition settings, and the grid option has been moved to composition as well. And of course, FaceTime gets an update with the new compact mode, just like you find on the stock phone app and also third-party VoIP apps as well. So that's super handy. So you can have FaceTime even in a picture-in-picture window if you want to. There's also improved FaceTime quality overall. And you'll notice updated FaceTime settings for incoming calls, for banner notifications, or for full screen. And the prominent speaking feature for group FaceTime calls is also affected by sign language now. And the eye contact feature makes a comeback, which tries to maintain natural eye contact even when you're not looking directly at the camera for FaceTime. And you'll notice that an emoji is renamed Memoji here in FaceTime. No big surprise there at all. Now in the Files app, you get APFS encrypted drive support. This is really cool. Let me show you how this works. So I have an APFS encrypted USB drive. I'm gonna go ahead and plug that into my camera connection kit here. And I'm going to plug this into an iOS 13 device. So the iPhone 11 Pro running iOS 13 have the APFS encrypted drive plugged in. And guess what? Absolutely nothing happens. No big surprise there. Now I'm going to plug the same drive into an iOS 14 device. And notice what happens here. Well, I'll get this error message, but you can just ignore that. Look at that. So it actually can read that encrypted drive. I'm going to tap on that, and then it's going to ask me for my credentials so that I can actually view the drive, the contents. So now I'm going to authenticate. All right, so the password's there, and it's authorized. So now I can actually drag and drop stuff onto that drive. So that's what I'm going to do now. Drag it there, and there we go. Now you'll also notice an updated sidebar in the Files app. So some of the text is a little bit different. The chevrons are different. And you also get more consistent glyphs. So the glyphs for things like on my iPhone or shared documents or recently deleted are way more consistent with the overall look of iOS. Downloads, it looks a lot better. And then there's a new action button for easy folder and file management. So previously you had the select button, but now you have this action button here that has everything in it. So all your functions at the top, select, create a new folder, scan documents, connect to server. But notice here, you also have your list view and your sorting options in the same window. So I can go in and change from icon view to a list view, and then I can change from list view to icon view. I can also change sorting. Now in iOS 13, in order to access these features, you actually had to kind of swipe down to reveal some of those features, and they were all over the place. But here it's just in one area, it makes it so much easier. And now it's easier to sort and change your view while searching because that option is right next to the search bar. You don't have to pull down at all in the interface in order to access these things, and you can quickly sort or change your view just like that. Now here on iOS 13, you have to swipe down. It's just not as simple. So now there's a new shared documents folder in iOS 14, and that gives you access to all your shared documents. So you can quickly go in there, manage your shared documents, add people, remove people, etc. Now the Health app gets a new customized sleep schedule. This is a brand new feature that replaces the bedtime feature on iOS 13. So you can set a sleep goal, very similar to bedtime. I'm going to change it to 7 hours. And next, and then you set your first schedule. So you can change the active days and then use the little rotation mechanism here to change your sleep time and wake up time. You can adjust even further like this. And now you have alarm options below that. So you're going to use the same alarms that you find in bedtime on iOS 13. Same sounds. All right, now here's your schedule. From there, you can set up sleep mode. So once you enable sleep mode, you can customize the wind down feature as well, which sort of gets you prepared to go to sleep. So you can set up how much in advance you want to start winding down prior to your sleep start time. So this will dim the screen, reduce distractions, eliminate notifications, unnecessary notifications, and also give you wind down shortcuts. So these are shortcuts that you can use to help you sort of relax. So maybe you like a particular album in Apple Music, you can open that up. Or maybe you like to listen to a podcast before you go to bed. Or maybe you like to write in notes. Or maybe you want to access the Home app so you can activate certain scenes and things of that nature. Well, you can do all that, and these will appear right on your lock screen. So let's have a look at the wind down interface. So here you go, it says good evening. See how the phone is dim? The lock screen's dim. Do not disturb is enabled. Tells you when your bedtime is, so you have a few minutes before bedtime. And then you have your shortcuts button as well. You tap that, and that allows you quick access to all your shortcuts. So you don't have to unlock your phone and go looking for certain things. All the stuff is right there ready for you to use, which again keeps you from getting distracted. And then there's sleep mode. So you can enable or toggle that right from Control Center. This will enable automatically based on your sleep mode, but you can toggle that on or off as well right from Control Center. So you'll find additional updated features in the Health app for iOS 14. For instance, you'll find a lot of additional new symptoms to choose from. You'll also find additional health categories like mobility, for instance. And then there's the updated profile page with features and privacy, and some things are rearranged there. There's also some new features in there as well. One of the new features is the health checklist. You can see it right here. So that helps you keep an eye on important health settings. There's also hearing health. And this combines with some of the new headphone audio accommodation features in iOS 14. So this talks about how headphones can really affect your hearing for the negative. So there's a reduced sounds option, reduce loud sounds option here in iOS 14. You can enable that to protect yourself. Now the clock app, and really everywhere inside iOS 14, has a new system-wide clock picker, which is redesigned. So no longer do you get that little rotary thing. You get something where you can directly input time. Now, although this is probably faster, I did like the haptic feedback that I used to get from that little rotary dial. So some people may not like this change as much. I thought that little rotary dial was pretty cool. But needless to say, this is going to be a faster way to input time. And then you'll notice in the clock app, the bedtime tab has been removed because sleep mode replaces that in iOS 14. So there's no need for bedtime. But sleep mode information is going to be found in the alarm section as well. You can actually change the sleep mode alarm on a one-time basis. So if you have the alarm set, maybe you wake up early, you can dismiss that alarm. Or if you need to change your schedule, you can do that on a one-time basis. So it only affects the next alarm. It doesn't affect your reoccurring sleep schedule. So you can see there, the alarm was skipped for that day. And then here, if I adjust the sleep schedule, so you'll see that any changes that we make only affect the very next sleep schedule. And then everything after that will go back to the default mode that you have set up within the Health app. So I think we made all of our changes here. Tap done, and then you see where it says tomorrow only. In the Mail app, you'll find a new VIP star color. It's now gold instead of just the blue outline, so it kind of stands out. And the Mark shortcut now features a flag on it, whereas in iOS 13, there's nothing there. Maybe that's just a bug. But needless to say, I thought it was interesting. And then there's a new account setting option in the Mail app. So it used to be Mail was underneath passwords and accounts, but no more. That's been separated. As you can see here in iOS 13, you actually have your Mail settings within passwords and accounts. but passwords is completely separate from accounts in iOS 14. So here's your passwords. We're not going to authenticate. And then if you go to Mail, you're going to see accounts within Mail. And there you can set up any accounts you have or manage your accounts. And the same thing goes for calendars, notes. You can set up the accounts within those particular sections as well. So here is notes. You can see the accounts link just like that. Now the Measure app gets an updated quick action level and measure glyph. So you can see those are light. The magnifier in iOS 14, when you enable that via settings and accessibility magnifier, you'll see a revamped magnifier utility on the home screen. Now normally you would have to triple press the side button to invoke the magnifier, but here there's a standalone magnifier app icon on the home screen which launches that magnifier interface. And this interface looks a lot different than what you find on iOS 13. There are additional options as well. So it's easy to zoom in, zoom out. There's all these customized controls options. So you can have 2 controls available at all times. And then you can go in there and customize, rearrange, just like that. So I have zoom and brightness on the main controls, and then the other are going to be hidden under the little chevron. So if I swipe up, you're going to see those other controls. And just lots of ways we can customize the magnifier here in iOS 14, even adding filters and things of that nature, which you could do in the previous version, but here in iOS 14, it's a little bit more robust. The Music app in iOS 14 gets a big upgrade. Now there's Listen Now, which replaces the For You tab on iOS 13, and Listen Now appears first in iOS 14. So the Listen Now interface is going to show you your top picks, also stations, recently played, other recommendations made for you, etc. So it's just a great place to get curated music tailored specifically to your taste. Now you get an updated Now Playing background which reflects the album art or complements the album artwork. So it sort of looks like you're in lyrics mode, but you don't have to be in lyrics mode to get this translucent view, which just looks amazing in my opinion for the Now Playing album artwork. And there's an updated album page, so you can see it's rearranged. The album artwork's a little larger, the play and shuffle buttons are larger. Everything's just sort of rearranged for the better. And here's one of my favorite new features, autoplay. So there's a new option here in the Music app. When you go into the details section, you tap the little infinity icon, and that will bring up additional tracks that are similar to the track that you're already playing. It will just automatically bring those in. You can rearrange, you can even delete autoplay items directly out of there if you want to. There's also improved search. So the search panel will give you these categories, so you can quickly pull up a category if you want to do that. But you don't have to. You can go in there and actually type something out, type an artist or song or lyrics, or whatever the case may be. So here, I'm just going to type in Yumi, do a search, and then I can actually filter on all those items if I want to. So I can just tap these filters here and search exactly on the type of media that I'm looking for. That's very, very powerful new search feature. And then there's library filtering, something that I've been wanting forever in Apple Music. Now in your library, for instance, in albums, you can actually filter on specific names of albums and artists, etc. And then there's a new scrubber while in lyrics view. So, of course, you're going to have a scrubber in normal view, but here on iOS 13, you couldn't actually scrub. You could tap the lyrics to jump to different spots of the song, but there was no scrubber. But here in iOS 14, even in lyrics view, you have a scrubber. Very nice addition to iOS 14. Now, in the News app, when you go into dark mode, here's how it looked previously in iOS 13. So I'm going to go into dark mode. So you see the interface around it is dark, but the article's still light. But in iOS 14, you get true dark mode articles in the News app. And here is Notes. No more textured paper background for your notes. That's probably my favorite feature of iOS 14. Just kidding, but that is a long-awaited feature. You get a new table view in Notes, an enhanced action menu. So that's going to allow you to change between gallery view and things like that. There's a collapsible pinned section as well. And when searching, it will expose your top hits right at the top of the interface. And there's new headings for formatting. So you see the little format heading there. And speaking of formatting, you get new quick style. So if you tap and hold on the style button, you can quickly access all of your styles to quickly switch between them. Let me show you that again here. So tap and hold and simply drag your finger up to invoke a style. So I got my bullet list. And then there's enhanced scanning, which should result in sharper scans with more precise auto cropping. And I think it looks pretty good. Don't notice a huge difference, but this was a pretty good scan right there on the fly. Now the Photos app gets a new Actions button that allows you to do all sorts of cool things, such as filtering, changing aspect ratio, zooming in, zooming out, directly from that Actions button. Now you can filter and sort as well. So I can filter, so I can say, hey, I only want to show favorite photos. Tap done, and there we go. And then once I do that, I can even sort. Tap sort. Let's sort on newest first. Just like that. And now you get easy, fluid navigation, so you can zoom in and zoom out, and it's just super fluid right here in the albums. And you can zoom in further on photos. So notice how far I'm able to zoom in on the picture of my hand there. And in iOS 13, can't zoom in nearly as far. And now you can add context to your photos and videos with captions. So you just simply swipe up, and then you can type in a caption. And you can also search by those captions as well. So great for just denoting important details in photos. So here's a search result, pulled up that caption, just like that. It's super nice. And then there's memory enhancements. So memories are going to appear right at the top. So you're going to have more music options, better stabilization, better framing when switching between portrait and horizontal photos. And throughout this tutorial, you've already seen the improved image picker, but I just want to reiterate how good this image picker is. So now you can obviously just access all your photos. You can go to albums directly here, which is really nice. You can also do a search and easily search your various photos using all sorts of data, even captions that we set up earlier, and quickly find the photo you're looking for and insert that directly in this note in this case. And in iOS 14, recently deleted photos are now displayed in reverse. So the photo most recently deleted will be displayed last, and the photo that's going to be auto-deleted sooner is going to be displayed first, if that makes sense. And when saving changes to video, there's a less intrusive rendering watermark in the bottom left-hand corner instead of where it says saving video right smack in the middle of the video. And the podcast app has a smarter listen now section. So you see larger album artwork. And the new Up Next section gives you a personalized episode queue that makes it easier to resume where you left off. And when you have a shared list in reminders, you can assign those reminders to shared individuals. I'm going to do so right now. Just going to tap the little person button and then assign a reminder just like that. And that person can receive notifications that they've received an assigned reminder as well. And now you don't have to go into a list to create a new reminder. You can actually create a new reminder directly from the main screen, and it will default to the default list. And of course, you can always go in after the fact and change which list it's going to, but it's just nice to be able to create a quick reminder directly from the main interface. And now there's an enhanced calendar picker in the Reminders app. So you just go in there and you can switch between months and you can tap on days. It's interesting though, it still uses the old school time picker. Not that I'm complaining about that. And there's a revamped details view with colors and glyphs. Just looks a lot more friendly. And in iOS 14 reminders, there's the ability to edit multiple reminders at the same time. So I can select all these and, for instance, apply a flag to all those reminders just by tapping flag. So let's do so right now. There we go. And there's personalized lists that you can update with emojis and new symbols. So you see all the new symbols below here. But what's really cool is you can tap the emoji button and assign an emoji to your list to really personalize it. And here's our list. Let's scroll down. There you go. And there's a new Assign to Me list, smart list. So you can access that for all assigned items. And you can organize smart lists as well. Super nice. And there's improved search, so more fields that it will search on, not just notes and things like that, but also assignments. And if you go into settings reminders, you'll find the new assignment notifications toggle that we talked about just a minute ago. Now shortcuts get some updates as well. There's a new option to show on Apple Watch for actions. There's a new shortcuts widget, of course. And we can enable that and access shortcuts directly from the lock screen or the home screen. And there's brighter colors when customizing the look of your shortcuts. There's new automation triggers. So you'll see one for sleep, for instance. There's also an automation trigger for charging your device. So when you put it on a charger, for instance, you can make it emit a different sound when charging your device. And there's a new time of day recurrence or updated time of day recurrence. Now you have daily, weekly, and monthly. So if we select weekly, we have our standard options there, but you also have monthly, and you can set a specific day of the month. And then there are new actions, like actions for stocks. But that's not all. There's also actions for starting a workout. There's also an action for requesting a ride, or an action for news. Now the Books app doesn't get a lot of updated settings, but there is one setting, purchases from other devices. Since everything was migrated out of App Store, now that is going to be located within Books settings. And then Game Center, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but you have user details at the top of Game Center. So this is the dedicated Game Center section in settings. And then of course you have the invites, and then you have achievements by game as well. So you can go in there and look at all the games that you have going on with Game Center, see all of your current achievements, all the ones you're still working on for every game that's eligible that you've played. And then there's profile privacy, so you can set those settings here within Game Center as well in iOS 14. And now voice memos get some updates. There's a new light recording button area, which is right here, and I'm both in light mode on both devices. There's enhanced recording options, so you can make your recording sound better by clicking the enhance button. There's also favorites, so if you swipe right, you can favorite a recording, and now that recording will show up in the favorite section at the root of voice memos. There's also smart folders, so recently deleted items will automatically show up here. And you can create your own folder, so that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm just going to create a folder called Jeff's Voiceovers. Voiceovers. And if I could spell, and then tap save. And now I can move items directly to Jeff's Voiceovers. Simple. The Find My app is going to integrate with third parties in the future. So things like Tile will be able to integrate directly within the Find My app. And weather gets next hour precipitation, no doubt courtesy of Apple's Dark Sky acquisition. And there's an air quality meter, not just air quality details, but there's an actual visual meter here within the weather app. There's also multi-day precipitation. So you can see all those precipitation items there on each day. And you can slide between locations thanks to the little dot indicators at the bottom. And you can view locations without adding now. So if I just tap the search button, type in a location, so I'm going to type in Fukuoka, and now I can view that weather, but I don't actually have to add it to my library. So I could just hit the done button and exit out, or if I actually wanted to add it, just tap add. And in iOS 14, the activity app has been renamed to the fitness app. Makes sense given, what it's all about. And there's a consolidated summary tab, so there's only 2 tabs now at the bottom of the fitness app. And then things like activity, workouts, trends, awards are all consolidated under that one tab. So ladies and gentlemen, that has been a look at over 250 new iOS 14 features. Which one is your favorite? Let me know down below in the comment section, and be sure to subscribe for more